Hello and welcome to Regiments of Renown Norsca edition. As usual, this information will be primarily geared towards domination, but it can be useful for land battles as well. So, let's get right into it. First off, starting off with the Horn Marauders. Our Marauder, main advantage of this is, again, level 9 stats. They all have rank 9 melee stats, or combat stats in general. These bad boys are bringing in Perfect Vigor and ITP. Perfect Vigor I've talked about before. I'm not a huge fan of it in domination because usually you're spawning in so many fresh units anyway, it's kind of irrelevant, and units tend to get resummoned with their low health rather than keep fighting. So I think its value has severely diminished in the transition between land battles and domination. But immune to psychology is actually quite good for Marauder units. Marauder units, or cheap infantry units like this in general, tend to be very weak to fear and terror, as their leadership is super high, and just having a monster come in and tear out them can be a very easy way to remove them from the field. Having that immune to psychology means they can stick around quite a bit longer and actually keep fighting, and perhaps actually use that perfect vigor to actually keep fighting after quite a good deal of time. So definitely a decent option when you want a little more punch out of your infantry without upgrading all the way to berserkers. So, or perhaps you've already maxed berserkers, either one. So definitely a solid choice. Don't know if I'd prioritize them though. Brutes of the Hound. These guys actually have quite a lot going for them. They have Unbreakable. They have the Mark of Khorne for extra, they have Frenzy and Spell Resist and Reduced Melee Defense. The Frenzy we talked about, the Spell Resist we talked about. These guys, I want to like them, but I think Unbreakable on these guys is actually a detriment in domination. They tend to linger, they take damage very, very quickly. Berserkers all do. They have pretty low melee defense, pretty low armor. And that works for normal Berserkers because they can get in, kill things, trade quickly, and then they get resummoned quickly and get back to the battle because they're pretty quick for infantry units. With Brutes of the Hound, they linger on with like 5 to 10 models, and they just can't accomplish much at that low HP. I think Unbreakable really hurts these guys. They just can't actually get resummoned, which is one of the big powers of regular Berserkers. They can get back to back battle quickly. And these guys just can't really do the same thing. Spell Resist is kind of nice, but they're already decent at spells because they have the spread formation, so I think Brutes of the Hound are kind of a trap, to be perfectly honest. So I usually skip out on them most of my builds. Now, Beasts of Tashner, the Rr War Norscan Warhounds. I really like these guys. Some people disagree with me. I really like them. They are anti-large, and they have Frenzy. So in a vacuum, I don't think they're a very good unit, but on a roster that lacks cavalry, they're very good for punishing enemy cavalry. They can't take a frontal charge, they're very squishy, but if you can bring them into the back of enemy light cav, or even heavy cav, or just need them to run on skirmishers, they can actually do quite a bit. They can actually tear apart cavalry very, very quickly. Or even if they just pile in to surround a monster, although you have better tools for that, they can do quite a good bit of work. So I like these guys. I think I'm a little bit alone in that opinion, though, so do with that information what you will. Mods of Savagery. The Rr War Armored Skin Wolves. They get Vanguard Deploy and nothing else. No increase in physical resist, no other additional stat boost other than the rank 9 stats from the chevrons, just Vanguard Deploy. So usually, unless your name is Human Boy, yes, you're not bringing Armored Skin Wolves in general. They're a pretty garbage unit. You're not going to take an Rr War of a garbage unit just because it has Vanguard Deploy. Like, Vanguard Deploy is, in land battles, it's completely useless for these guys. In domination, it's okay, but you're not going to bring a garbage unit or an Rr War of a garbage unit just because it has Vanguard Deploy, so you can just skip out of these guys altogether. Now we have the Mist Stalkers, Rr War Famir Warriors. So these guys actually have some pretty nice things going for them. They have Stalk, so they can avoid just entirely enemy shooting until they get in the melee fight, which is very, very good for a unit that is just going to be a high priority target. And they cause Terror, which is really nice on a monster's infantry because they're very hard to remove. They have good leadership, good HP, they have a lot of armor, so they're really hard to remove Terror Source. But they do have the downside of they're not as mobile as some other Terror Sources, so they have more staying power, less mobility. They can't necessarily be where they need to be to Terror out. I'm not really sure how I feel about these guys. Famir in general are a little overpriced at the moment. They have some good attributes. They have the armor sundering, which really helps you with your low armor piercing infantry. Your berserkers, your marauders, they don't have much armor piercing. And they're really good at killing armored infantry, but I feel like Norsca doesn't really need that. I feel like they already have good options. The only time I bring these guys, Famir in general, is really for great weapons to kill a big monster, but Skin Wolves do that anyway. So I'm not really sure what application these guys would have. I kind of like them in a vacuum, but I'm really not sure how to feel about them. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys like Fimir in general, or the Miststalkers in particular? Because I want to like them. On paper they look good, but I feel like they're just overshadowed by everything that's on the roster. So let me know what you guys think, because I'm kind of conflicted on those guys. Next we have the Cold Voider. Cold Voider is the RR Frostworm, and the only thing it gets is Guardian. And I believe I've talked about this before, but Guardian on this unit's kind of odd, because when is your Lord going to be near it? None of your Lords are flying to really stick with you, and the only real time you'd bring a Frostworm is to hunt a flying enemy Lord with their high speed and chilling aura to actually slow them and catch them. So I feel like Guardian is just kind of wasted on a unit like this that's just going to be chasing the enemy Lord, not protecting your own, usually in the air where your Lord can't even keep up if they wanted to. So if you're going for a Frostworm, I think I'd just go for the basic Frostworm, which you rarely do because they're not a very good unit in general. You know, just pretty squishy for a dragon. The breath attacks are meh. So, like, Guardian just seems entirely wasted in this unit. So I think if I'm bringing a Frost, which is a big if, I think I'm going with the basic one. Now we have the Soul Crusher, the Rr War Mammoth. So the big thing this bad boy has going for him is this ability right here, Enrage, with a 40% ward save for 22 seconds with infinite uses. This is a really good ability. It makes it a very, very strong duelist against things like, you know, maybe a Blood Dragon Lord kind of just trying to snipe it, or, you know, a Torox kind of character. Or if you have to assault a gun line. If you're running into a bunch of gunfire, handgunners, cannons, anything like that, pop this and you're taking a ton less damage. You can actually, you know, survive the assault, actually push through. It's really, really good. It also has the added benefit of having Strider. So Strider negates combat penalties ignored by terrain. So it can fight with full efficiency in the forest. So it can actually be a really nice pick on a map like Grove of Slaughter. You have that center point completely surrounded by trees. If you need some kind of big, you know, infantry clearing monster to come in and cause terror. Now that said, you already have a lot of really good infantry clearers in Norsca, so it might be a little bit irrelevant, but it is a nice option to have. So I don't know if I'd always take this guy, but if you want a Mammoth, he's definitely a solid option. Anyway, that's all the RRs we have for Norsca. Again, let me know how you feel about the Miststalkers, or again, Fimir in general. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but if you liked it, if you found it helpful, please drop a like, leave a comment. We'll be having a bunch more of these coming down the pipeline, so make sure to subscribe and stick around for the rest of those. Other than that, thank you all for coming. See you next time.